Hello, Calvin Jones here with the Park Tool Company. So I'm here with James Stanfill. Welcome, James, to Park Tool.
Thanks for having me.
James is the CEO?
President.
El Jefe, the president of the Professional Bicycle Mechanics Association. Let's hear a little bit about you. You and I have known each other for some years now.
Unfortunate, yes.
Yep, you started out Cannondale. Before that, you were other places. So give us an idea of your background in a nutshell. Who is James?
Sure. I think that our first ever interaction was probably at the Race Mechanics Clinic I think I went through in 2000 or 2001.
Yeah, just a young teenager.
I worked for bike shops. I've worked for Cannondale, specialized a number of professional teams. Been around the world a few times, and worked at USA Cycling, where I then was running that clinic. So we worked closely, argued, didn't like each other sometimes, but got along fine.
We were pounding the product, the curriculum on the forge of discussion.
Yes.
That's how I view it.
Yes. And then, work for myself, as an independent contractor for teams and athletes and assorted companies like SRAM and Mavic and these guys.
So the PBMA now, it's a fairly new organization. You're in existence about how long, James?
We started in March of 2016.
Yeah.
Under a year.
Under a year, as a small infant of an organization. And what is it about? Ostensibly an organization for the professional bike mechanic. Can you give us a little oversight of how it was created and what came about to try and form such an organization?
Sure. In our industry, we have a lot of different organizations looking after the business side and the ownership side, but not many looking at the mechanic side. Mechanics for cycling industry are, in my biased opinion, rather important. You can't really have a bicycle without a mechanic, is my general stance and opinion. We formed the organization to focus on improving working conditions, let's say, or the professionalism of what an individual mechanic might be. What is a professional bicycle mechanic? Defining that. What is the profession of bicycle mechanics? Defining what that means and turning it into a recognized professional trade. In other industries like the auto industry, you have the ASC, which is the Automotive Standards of Excellence or something like that, which is a certification program where people receive training, receive a certificate, and are recognized at different levels by their employer and by obviously the consumer then too. In the cycling industry, that doesn't exist. There are certification programs, but the programs aren't aligned with one another and aren't generally recognized by the industry as a whole as good or bad or for this purpose.
So about how big is it? How big? How many people are we talking here?
So if we think about the cycling industry, and if we think about there's 4,000 independent bicycle dealers
in the USA.
In the USA. And just imagine that just on average, each has two mechanics. One could be the owner, one could just be the mechanic. A store might have an owner and two mechanics and some salespeople, but on average, let's say there's two. So let's say there's 8,000. They're all theoretical. Let's say there's 8,000 mechanics in the world. As we're growing, we just opened membership to the organization in September at Interbike. And since then, we've seen good growth towards the end of 2017 and very rapid growth over this first week of January. So we're growing as an organization on the membership side. It's starting to grow at a rate that we expected. I think that by the end of 2017 we could realize 2,000 to 3,000 members. As we get out and reach more people, see more shops, talk to more people, and are able to talk about what we're doing and how we're trying to do it, that will also affect those growth rates.
People think, bike mechanic, the classic image is, I go to a bike shop and there's a person behind the counter with an apron, that's a bike mechanic. But in your organization, it's broader than that. What are some other mechanics that you represent? Who are you trying to represent?
Sure.
What are some others there?
Yeah, I mean, you have mechanics that own they're an owner who was a mechanic, who believes in his mechanics. You have mechanics that work for race teams and for events. that are underrepresented and essentially represented by nobody. They're independent contractors. You have mobile repair guys working out of vans that don't have interaction on a daily basis with other mechanics necessarily, so creating opportunity for them to interact with other people and share ideas. You've got people building bicycles for Walmart and Target and these big box stores, and perhaps them most in particular have no training sometimes, and those bikes are seeing far greater audience reach than the bike shop is, so putting training for them and making those bikes safer makes sense too. A lot of feedback and things you see are people complaining about these bikes that come in from these stores that are poorly assembled or falling apart. So let's stop complaining about it and let's fix the problem up front, and then also work with those customers to show them the difference between what they have and what they're actually wanting and why they need to spend that little bit more money.
Well, so you have a broad constituent group, a large group. Is there enough common ground there to move that group forward? Do these people that you represent, is there enough of a common ground to get along with each other?
I think so. I mean, I think that, mechanics, grumpy or not grumpy, when they find something in common, a common skill, a common idea, they tend to get along, whether they like each other or not. I'm sure you have as many people that maybe you don't get along well with, but you have this common thing of mechanics, and you work fine with them in that environment and can talk to them and interact with them in that environment.
So from the organization, from the PBMA viewpoint, then what is the view of what's called certification, which is a term that's being thrown around a lot? I should be certified, maybe I'm certifiable. What is that term? You are
certifiable, yes.
What does that term mean to the PBMA? When you say that?
Sure. After Interbike, we put out a call to action to the industry about certification. We have a broad overview, 5-year plan of what certification can look like. The idea that there's different organizations creating individual certifications that aren't exactly working with one another or talking to one another causes a problem, because as an individual, if I get certified by Group A, is that certification relevant to Group B? Creating some common ground, a baseline, and then figuring out, is there different levels or is there different endorsements that become part of that make up an overall certification that everybody can recognize? We know that if you have certification, a PBMA approved or stamped or whatever it is certification, we know that as an individual you have this baseline knowledge, and then as an individual you could gain endorsement or recognition in suspension, let's say, or brakes or Shimano or SRAM or whatever the component group is. You gain that individual or specific training, and then creating a continuing education program, because if you were certified 10 years ago and didn't work in the bicycle industry, is the information that you learned and your knowledge good enough to be certified today? And how do we categorize and characterize that?
It's some interesting things, but how are these going to translate to when you get them done in expectations in terms of cost? Is training done well is not free, and then what it leads to? What are going to be the expectations of people who have gone through this?
Sure. So training obviously has a cost to it. Some suppliers have training that is available for free. Some suppliers have training that is available at a lower cost. We're seeing right now that from the manufacturer side, a lot of the training is subsidized by the manufacturer or an organization that's making it available. One of our goals is to create regional training opportunities where some of these companies that don't have that kind of access to the people or can't afford to create their own program can come and participate and see a larger audience in one focused spot. For the end user, it makes it more affordable, because instead of spending $1,000 to go somewhere and get one training, they're coming somewhere for a lower cost than that and getting 6 or 7 trainings in the course of a few days. What it means to the user is that they're going to get the information that they desire. We have a lot of feedback and data that says people want more training and education, they just can't afford to get it. So by being this sort of neutral hub to provide this, it allows us to go to the people on the education side and say, look, here's what we're offering. We would like you to participate. Here's how it works. And then for the user, that lower cost, more access, and better opportunity.
Do you see this as the local shops, are they going to see this as a help? This is something, boy, I can have these mechanics sent off and get training, or are the local shops saying, oh boy, what is this extra layer? What's going on here? What's the view of the bicycle dealer, independent bicycle dealer?
I mean, I'm not a bicycle dealer, but I think that the smart dealers realize that when they have more professional, better trained, and better skilled mechanics working in their store, that they make more money. Teaching a mechanic service writing, for instance, will generate the store more money, especially if they're applying those skills to work with the customer to maximize that interaction. When a customer comes into a shop and says, hey, you need a tune-up, and someone just writes down tune-up and hangs the bike on a rack, and then the next mechanic grabs it and works on it and does a tune-up, $25, let's say, super cheap, it's a good discount shop. That shop probably lost, another $25 or $30 in either accessory sales or other labor that could have been identified and done on that bike by doing that walkthrough with the customer and talking to them about why they need this or why they need that. And you'd be surprised to see that probably half the stores out there don't practice that method.
Is there any reduction in liability? Does the PBMA looked at would that help the local dealer? This is some sort of coverage or protection?
Sure. So we do and are in constant communication with one of the nation's leading insurance providers for the cycling industry. And they see certification and proof of skill as a great opportunity to evaluate risk of what a bicycle shop is, especially if they're doing service.
Would an owner be able to say, oh, this is great, I'm going to get a lower fee, I'm going to have less insurance payments, this is going to lower my premium?
That's the ultimate goal, because right now when you open a new shop and the insurance person goes to the guy that assesses the risk, the underwriter, and he doesn't know you from Adam. He doesn't know what your training from Park Tool Tech Tuesdays means to him or to you. He doesn't know what your skills actually equal in the real world. He just knows that bicycles are dangerous. He has to look at trends and data from your area, and he just assigns you a number. And that's what you pay through time. Maybe eventually in 5 years you get a discount because you haven't had any accidents or situations. Will that discount be enough to say, fund 7 or 8 employees into the organization of the PBMA? Probably. When you look at this on a bigger scale for the whole of the industry, that risk for the manufacturer can be reduced as well by having and knowing that a shop has certified staff putting their bicycles to the customer.
Well, the retail industry is changing in all fields. The record stores, the music shops, so the smaller retailers, which is where cycling is largely based, they're going to be changing as well. So how does the mechanic help the new system? And what is going to be the new system? Maybe we talk about that.
The new system, gosh.
No one knows.
Yeah, the new system, nobody knows, but imagine, a shop less sales focused and more service focused. There's a lot of stores and locations, not even stores, service centers popping up that all they're focused on is service. You can't walk in there and buy a bike. VeloFix and Beeline, the 2 major mobile franchises, have built their model on service. And now we're seeing that they're also being point of delivery for some of these direct-to-consumer bicycle brands, which makes sense. Shops and the typical brick and mortar establishment of come in here and buy bikes, and then we also have service, is changing to more, we have all these services, we also sell bikes. The more we bolster those services, whether it's fit or actual service and repair, and you have a good reputation for that, the more successful you would be in the future, in my opinion.
We're in 2017. Let's add 5 years. What do you want the organization to be 5 years from now?
Sure. I think in 5 years you're going to see that the organization will have, deeper reach into the industry, but we'll have hopefully created a common ground for certification. We'll have created training opportunities. We will have created something that helps to lower the barrier of entry for someone to work in this industry and create a career path where, mechanics aren't living paycheck to paycheck, and people aren't struggling to find work, and people who have the skills are being paid appropriately for their skills. And we'll be looking at training and continually trying to help others improve the training that they're offering based on information that we're hearing about what people want, whether it's online and hands-on or more accessible. Do there need to be more bike schools? Does there need to be faster internet? We'll fix the world.
That's
right?
a good attitude.
World peace.
That's the true attitude of a bike mechanic. Solve problems.
Yeah.
Solve problems. Well, James, thanks for stopping by. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll have to watch the PBMA and see where it goes.
Invite me on a warmer season next time.
That's right. We'll go ride fat bikes now that it's cold.
All right.